When did that one family member's mask finally slip? My stepmother used to slip crushed pills into our juice boxes. My little brother Jake had ADHD, like the kind where he'd literally bounce off walls and talk a mile a minute. And me? I was the kid who couldn't sit still in class, always tapping, always moving. But that didn't fit with her image as the trophy wife of a Fortune 500 CEO. Her reasoning? We were embarrassing at her charity galas and country club brunches. And when I turned 15, I started to notice things. It all started when Jake wouldn't wake up after one of her dinner parties. Not like normal sleep, like couldn't shake him awake sleep. But I was ready. I'd been secretly pouring out my drinks and pretending to be drowsy. Except watching my 8-year-old brother barely breathing didn't feel like the victory I thought it would. In fact, it made me feel powerless. So much so that I started documenting everything on my phone, even though I was terrified of what she'd do if she found out. And don't get me wrong, I loved my dad, but I know he saw how we'd practically pass out at 7 p.m. whenever she had events, how we'd miss school the next day, too groggy to function. But he never did anything, because in his eyes, she was the perfect wife who kept our family's reputation spotless. Plus, at those parties, she had the devoted stepmother role down to a T. She'd carry Jake around when he was too drugged to walk, telling guests he was just tired from playing. She'd stroke my hair while I slumped in chairs, whispering to her friends about how challenging special needs children could be. It was sickening, but one good thing did come out of it. I learned to fake taking those drinks. You see, I channeled all that hyperactive energy into protecting Jake. So by 16, not only could I perfectly mimic being sedated, but I'd learned to make myself throw up silently to get the drugs out when I had to actually drink them. She was planning her biggest event yet, a charity auction for children's health. The irony wasn't lost on me, but Jake had been getting worse. The doses were getting stronger. At this point, I'd been recording everything. Her crushing pills, mixing drinks, even her phone calls with her doctor friend who supplied them without prescriptions. The morning of the gala, Jake could barely open his eyes. She was frantic about him being too energetic for the photographers. I watched her make his special breakfast smoothie with twice the usual amount. Just to be safe, she muttered. I spent the entire day trying to keep Jake awake, made him play video games, splash cold water on his face, anything. But by 6 p.m., when the guests started arriving, he was fading. She dressed him in his little tuxedo while he swayed on his feet. The party was incredible. She kept pulling Jake and me into photos, her manicured nails digging into our shoulders to keep us upright. She told everyone how proud she was of her boys and their progress with their behavioral challenges. For the first time, I saw several guests exchange concerned looks, or so I thought, because as it turns out, one of those guests was Dr. Morrison, a pediatric neurologist, and he'd been watching Jake very carefully. Around 9 p.m., Jake started turning blue, started making these tiny gasping sounds. The champagne glass shattered when it hit the marble floor as she dropped it. "Jake's not breathing!" I screamed, loud enough for all 200 guests to hear. Dr. Morrison pushed through the crowd and immediately started CPR. "This child has been drugged," he announced. "Someone call 911 now." She grabbed my arm, those perfect nails drawing blood. "You did this. You've always been jealous that I gave your father the perfect life. You probably drugged him to frame me." She was holding her champagne bottle, still half full from toasting her charitable work. Before I could even process what was happening, she swung it at my head. "You're ruining everything!" I ducked instinctively. There was a crack, followed by the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard. She'd smashed the bottle against the marble pillar when she missed me. Glass shards had embedded in her face and neck. Blood was mixing with her foundation, creating pink streams down her designer dress. The room erupted. Guests were screaming, recording, calling police. She ran toward the bathroom, but collapsed in the hallway. I could hear my dad shouting Jake's name over and over. 2 ambulances arrived. Jake needed his stomach pumped and barely made it. She needed multiple surgeries to remove the glass. When the police got to the hospital and asked what happened, I just said, "Check my phone." 2 years of videos, her crushing pills with her jewelry hammer, measuring doses while on the phone with her dealer, Jake's medical records showing mysterious illnesses that only happened before her events, voice recordings of her calling us those hyperactive little shets to her friends. My dad's face went ghost white. Full story on channel, linked below.